Ravenbrook Recovery Church, everybody. My name is Pastor Uni, and I am the Senior Recovery Pastor here at Ravenbrook. I'm super excited that you guys have chosen to join us today. So tonight is our testimony service, so welcome to that. Yay! I will not be preaching tonight, but rather we have someone who's going to share their testimony. So what can you expect tonight? The first thing, we're going to have offering. And then we're going to move into a time of worship, and then we will end with our testimony for the evening. So, take it away.
With working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see that you're working, even when I don't feel that you're working, you never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see that you're working, even when I don't feel that you're working, you never stop working. You never stop. You are a way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are a way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 That is who you are.
All right. So my name is James, and I'm in recovery.
Hi,
And
James.
hi, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about about myself. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey, my childhood, about how I began my recovery journey, and I'm going to tell you a lot about what keeps me coming back and what's working for me to keep me clean and to stay focused on recovery.
Absolutely. I've been excited to hear your testimony. So
All right,
I'm
that
pretty excited.
sounds great. Well, whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
Go for it.
All right. So let me tell you a little bit about my childhood. I was born and raised in Detroit, and um, my family probably put the D in dysfunctional. They were, as kids growing up, just this is one of the games that we had as kids growing up during get togethers. The kids would take bets on who would get drunk first and who would have a fight. And we thought that that was absolutely normal, not being exposed to anything else. Um, Grew up with with a brother and a sister, two siblings, mom and dad. Um, my uh, my mom and dad used to fight constantly. My father was a nice drunk. You know, have you ever heard of a mean drunk when somebody gets mad? And yeah, well, my father was a nice drunk. So we didn't mind him getting drunk because he was mean any other time. He was just degrading, didn't physically abuse us, but certainly the mental abuse was incredible. I remember I was on punishment for almost 3 months when I was in high school. I used to get all A's, and I'll kind of explain that um, a little bit later. And I brought home an A minus, and he said, he ignored all the A's and said the A minus. He said, no, it's not acceptable. And I was put on punishment for a while. So although academics was very important, it was just, I think he was kind of living through his kids because he only had a fifth grade education growing up. But anyway, so going in my childhood, my mom and dad, they used to fight every Friday. It would always be a fight. My dad would get drunk. My mom would um, not put up with it. And then they would physically fight. And then it was the kids. It was my sister and I, and my brother was a little bit too young, but it was my sister and I who would kind of referee it. So every Friday we'd have to stand between my mother and father because my father would always get the gun and he would always threaten to kill my mother. And that was the only way that we could kind of prevent that from happening. And it got to the point where he wasn't even worried about killing us. So we had to, when my brother was really small, we had to kind of hold him up in between us because that was the only way that my father was not pull the trigger. And I believe that I was born with a predisposition to addictive behavior, addictive personalities, just from being in the household, just from hereditary. But I think that PTSD or trauma really activates that addiction. So there was, when they were fighting and everything, there was one day that I just stopped. I would cry, and my sister and I would cry and would say, please don't kill her, don't do that. And one day I just stopped. I stopped crying. I stopped feeling. I just stopped. Now, as a child, that was probably the only way that I was able to stay sane. I think that was my body telling me that you better protect yourself or you're going to go crazy. But as an addict, and with that predisposition, I took it to another step. So everything was about me from that point on. Absolutely everything. There was nothing in this world that was more important than me and my desires. And I continued that path for years. As a matter of fact, that kind of got me into this quest that I had to be the best at everything. My sister and my brother, they both died through their addiction. My sister was the #2 lawyer in the city of Detroit when she died. My brother was a plant manager at Ford, had 300 and something people under him when he died. And they both died in active addiction. And that was just who we were. We were highly educated, but we were really, the substances were what kept us going. And I think it was that competitiveness, because we were never really like brother and sister. And I kind of miss that, because we were always competing against each other, always competing for attention, my mother's attention, or being the best, or, and we never got to know each other. And that's something I regret, but, I'm going down a different path now. So anyway, I threw myself into education. I had the choice of either, like going into the gangs and being a tough guy, and that really wasn't me, or kind of being like the nerd and being in books, and I got again, it was all about me, the self-centeredness. So I got my instant gratification from the grades and people talking highly of me, and that was like my high. That was my drug. And so I went through pretty successful, and I'm probably one of the smartest, dumbest people you'll ever meet. In that I've got a couple of undergraduate degrees, I've got a couple of master's degrees, but no common sense. Rob said one time, common sense ain't that common. Yeah, that's me. That was like something that I was not gifted with. So I made a lot of bad decisions, based on emotion, based on just me trying to be the center of attention. And but I was definitely successful. I think, one of the big things that in my life is that things came so easy. I would even in graduate school, I didn't have to do a lot of studying or anything like that. God gifted me with so many gifts and talents, and I used them to my benefit. And and now I'm learning that the gifts I was given, I'm just they should be used for other people's benefit and not mine, because I kind of warp, and it kind of changes the whole purpose of having the gift, of why God gave it to me, I think. So I went through college. I was pretty successful. And I was always using substances, and I knew something was a little different from me, because when I would go out to a bar and friends would drink, and they would have like leave a half of a drink, and I'm like, what, are you crazy? You're leaving a drop in the glass? Or they go out to meet people or to socialize, and I go out to get drunk. That was my whole purpose, was to get wasted. And I can, that thought process was a little bit warped. And so that was my kind of my work was my drug. I would drink every now and then. That was my drug. And climbing the corporate ladder. And that was like the biggest high that I ever experienced, in that I had control over people's lives. And again, that self-centeredness, and that um, using my gifts for my personal gain. There was a lot of people's lives that I put in jeopardy. I was the person who the company called up and said, this department is underperforming. Make it perform. And I would go in and clean out the department, and with no hesitation. And then it started kind of bothering me, because I knew that wasn't really who I was. So I had a conscience, just didn't exercise it. The climb the corporate ladder was more important. And I remember one thing that I used to do was, when I would go into a big meeting or a big presentation, I would carry a compact mirror. And before I would get in there, I would open the mirror and say, it's showtime, and smile in that compact. And I changed completely. I was a totally different person. And I was, whatever you wanted me to be, I was the chameleon. I would be able to win you over. But the problem was that I didn't know how to change back. I constantly was that chameleon. And I didn't have that compact with me, but I always would focus on, what did you want me to be? And I can be that person to get what I want. And I lost myself. I lost who I was. I was always somebody that somebody else wanted me to be, or somebody that I needed to be to get what I wanted. And I just was lost. And so I got a promotion to go to Jamaica. I ran 2 companies in Jamaica, and very successful. But and people think that addiction is just like a US problem. Addiction is global. When I was in Jamaica, the addiction was so bad, it was like farming, or not farming, but fishing communities were all just strung out. I would be with the executives, and we would have these networking parties. And first it started out like once a week, and we have the networking parties. And then I got in good because I was a chameleon, so I could get in good with just about anybody. And I got in with the in crowd. And then after like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, everybody would go home who thought it was a networking party, and then they would bring out the drugs. And I was introduced to my drug of choice. And the parties, my networking parties, went from one night a week to almost every night a week. And I was just completely consumed with it. It was what made me feel kind of normal. It made me feel like I was worthy of the success I was having. And so I just consumed. Now, all along, let me tell you, I had a family. My first wife was Jamaica, so we went back home to her island. And then I had 2 sons, and I pretty much ignored them for years. That was her job to raise them. My job was just to put the money in the bank account and have the money in the bank account. And then when I got fired from the job in Jamaica because just was not showing up to work. They gave me every opportunity, but I just wasn't showing up to work. So they even gave me another opportunity. They said, well, you did such a good job in Jamaica. It's a rough time. We'll put you in rehab, and then we'll ship you off to Brazil, and you can open the office in Brazil. And my wife at that time said, no, I'm just not doing it. I'm not going through that anymore. And she just started living for her and the kids. And so we moved to North Carolina. And in North Carolina, my addiction really took off. I was just, the one thing that made me feel really special was taken away, or I gave it away. And so I just went on a downward spiral. Now, I did have a few years, 5 years, 6 years that I was clean, but I would always go back. I would always think that I had control over the drug. I would always think that once I build my life back up again, that, you know, this time it's going to be different. I just got to tweak it a little bit. I just got to like plan it out a little bit better, and things will go the way I want it to. Newsflash, there is no such thing as a successful use. There's always something. If you don't get caught physically, if you have any type of connection with God, the spiritual toll that it takes is just not worth it. You know, because you just are hurt. You're hurt. I think you're hurt from not only disappointing God, but disappointing the potential that God is showing you have. So I went through that roller coaster for many, many years, and got divorced, and then I met Lori, and we got married. And I tell you, Lori has been such a blessing, because even though she has an incurable disease, she teaches me every day how to love unconditionally. And sometimes I don't want to, but she shows me how, and I'm like, yeah, well, maybe I can do that. So it really softens my heart towards a lot of things and a lot of people. So we lived in North Carolina. And again, it was never like an everyday situation, but it was a binge kind of thing. 2 years and I'd binge, 5 years and I'd binge. And I'd always come back and say, I'm sorry. And then sorry without any type of action behind it, it's just word. It's just a word. It turns into a word that makes you feel comfortable, but nobody believes. And so I just stopped even saying sorry. I was kind of destined to be who I was, and hopefully I could just stay under the radar for the rest of my life. It wasn't until the very last time that I had used that I decided it was a choice between either taking my life or giving my life to God. It was no in between, no gray area. I was really, really close with just, I can't do this anymore. I knew I can't do this anymore, but I can't do it by myself. And then I called out to God, and it was really, it's going to sound kind of, I would never have thought it. Now, I've always had a relationship and I've always had faith, but I cried out to God the last time that I relapsed. I cried out to God for not hours, not a day, but several days. I mean, I was like, I'm not going to live like this. I'm just not. I need to know, because I don't know how to live any other way, and I need your help. And I cried and I cried. And I mean, it was a good 5 days, I'd say. And then it came to me, and nothing ever happened to me like this before, but it came to me with scripture. Now, I've read the Bible like back and forth and forward and backward, because I'm thinking, as an addict, I try to get rid of my addiction through religion and psychiatry, all of that, and none of it works, because I'm trying to give it to that religion or give it to that psychiatrist, when that's part of me. I need to deal with the real issues of why I used, and I didn't have the courage nor the desire to do it before. But when I cried out to God, it was the story of the man at the pool of Bethesda. That was like, and I read it so many times before, but it was like two things stood up. Now, the pool of Bethesda, the man was there for 35 years. He, they said angels stirred the water and people would get in and get healed. And he was lying on his bed, and Jesus walked up to him, and he was telling Jesus, I can't get in. Nobody's going to help me. And two things stood out. Jesus said, "Do you want to be made whole?" And I was like, oh my goodness. So I have been asking and praying for me to stop using drugs, but that's not the problem. The problem is that I have some really underlying issues that are causing me to want to feel different. And he's basically saying, do you want to deal with your problems? And I was like, yes, today I want to deal with them. And then he said, pick up your bed and go. And I'm like, I'm trying to give you my disease. I don't want to pick it up, but my disease is part of who I am. It's not who I am, but it's a part of who I am. And by me picking up that bed and carrying that bed with me, others who have the addiction are attracted to that, and they see, he's moving. Maybe I can do that. And so it's used as an example. So those two things kind of stood out. And then I started
Those are your step 11 and your step 12.
Yep.
Your step 11 and your step 12 happening. Okay.
Yep. And so I started really just being very inquisitive and very, I wanted to find out as much about my disease as possible. I wanted to help people, but I wanted to learn how to forgive myself. And so that brings me to now. What keeps me focused on my recovery? I got a few 24 hours, and I know that this road, this journey in recovery, there's no destination. It's just a constant movement towards recovery, but there's never a destination. So I just keep on going and going. And one of the things that really helps me is service work. And the step 12, basically, it kind of blew my mind when I realized that the whole purpose of me cleaning house and having a relationship with God and then doing a daily inventory was so that I can be of maximum service to others. I'm thinking, again, the self-centeredness, it's got to be something in it for me, but it is. When I help others, it helps me. It helps me get out of where I am. And so service work is really huge in my life. And then the next one is to let and keep God in control. So let God have control and keep it in control. And the best analogy I have is, have you ever put together a puzzle? Just, maybe 100 pieces, 1,000 pieces. Well, the picture on the box of the puzzle is how the puzzle should be, right? It's the design of the puzzle. But when we try to put the puzzle together without that picture, sometimes it doesn't work out. See, in my early recovery and throughout my bouts with recovery, I was trying to put the pieces of that puzzle together by myself. And I can get the outside, but when I get to the heart of the puzzle, I don't remember how it's supposed to be. And so the pieces don't fit, or even worse, I'm trying to remember how it was. Well, wait a minute. I'm trying to change who I was before. How can I put my life together the way it was before and be successful? So I have no idea what my design is. That's why I have to rely on God. God is he's designing my life. So it's like putting that puzzle together, and I've got to keep him in control every day. I made a decision to forgive myself and to forgive others. And I have my favorite saying: there's nothing I can do to change what has happened, because it has happened. By keeping that thought in my mind, it's like, what are you going to do about it? Not that it's okay that it happened, but what are you going to do about it? It keeps me in the solution. I don't have to be the same person and make the same mistakes. My mistakes were like a lifestyle. I would make the same mistakes over and over again. Now, with God's direction and the help of others, they're becoming a learning experience. I'm starting to learn and not necessarily have to make those mistakes. But I can't do that by myself. The next is keeping my ego in check by setting realistic expectations. I'm not the smartest person. I'm not the most terrible person. I'm just me. And I have some really strong character traits, and I have some really strong defects. And it's just with the help of God and others, we're working on it. And I'm just becoming the person that God designed me to be. But I'm just me. Nobody else, nothing smaller, nothing larger, just James. And I'm okay with that today. And another thing is I'm trying to give the things I do right the same type of focus as when I did things wrong. And see, I used to look at everything I did wrong, and I was operating out of fear. Okay, I can't do this because these are the consequences. But wait a minute, you made 99 right decisions today, and you focus on that one wrong decision that you might make. That's not living, that's existing, and I choose to live today. So I make some choices to focus on the right things as well. Give myself a pat on the back every now and then. And then I eliminate my options. I don't know who I am. God is shaping me and developing, but I know who I'm not. I'm not that conniving and the guy who would take everything from you. I'm not the guy who wants to get things from you. I'm not that person. So by eliminating by focusing or eliminating on who I'm not, I can focus on who I'm becoming. And that relieves a lot of pressure off of me. I don't know if I'll ever know. I'm 29 plus years old, and I don't know if I'll ever know who I am. But God has given me these signs, like when you do the right thing for the right reason, not because you're afraid of the consequences, but because it's the right thing to do. Or, you reach out to someone who's struggling, not because you want something from them, but because, you just care about them. Or, you find a big bag of money in a parking lot and you rush to turn it in. I'm not there yet, but my whole thing is that it's God is telling me that I'm going in the right direction. And then the next thing is just, I try to respond to life rather than react. Reacting is instinct, it's gut level, it's emotional. It's like, I got to do it. And that's what got me in a lot of trouble. Responding is cerebral. It's a thought process. You have consultation with others. So life happens. You can't stop it from happening. When you deal with it, I try to respond rather than react. And normally things work out much better. And so finally, remember I was saying that I don't know if I said it before, but my whole purpose when I was growing up was to change the world. I was going to change the world. God gave me so many gifts and talents, and I was just going to change the world for me. I was going to be rich. I was going to do this. I was going to do that. And you know what? I'm okay with just changing my world. And I don't know what impact that's going to have in years down the road, but I know it's going to have an impact. My son's no longer have their only example of a man as an addict. And people around me have hope that if somebody like me can do it, they can do it too. This recovery journey is a process. I didn't become addicted overnight, and I got to really give myself a break every now and then. And but it's something that I'm eager. I am, again, that emotional disconnect that I had when I was 10 years old or whatever, because it was a way that I saved myself. I'm starting to feel excited about living. I'm starting to feel excited about, God, what do you have planned for me today? What amazing thing are you going to reveal about me that I just did not know? And it's happening. It may not happen every day, but God is just revealing these things. And I'm like, instead of going into the bathroom in the morning with the light off because I just don't like who I see, I can look in my eyes now and hold my head up, and today I'm going to be the best person I can be with God's help and the help of others. And just hope that this conversation helps someone. And we're there, but we definitely can't do it by ourselves. That's all I got.
Thank you so much.